asked a very good question this week. It's a question that maybe sometimes I answer in a roundabout way, but was directly asked this week, and this is what these question and answer videos are about, and this one was a really good one, so I thought I'd bring this to you. On the road today, it seems like I'm running about 115 different directions this week, so a lot of this stuff has been videos in the truck or at the home farm, trying to get some stuff done. Battling the weather here in Michigan, rain and stuff. But the question that I was asked this week was a question that came from a gentleman in Wisconsin, and the question is, or was, how do I know that my improvements, my habitat improvements are working? How do I know that they're working? How do I know that my interpretation and your interpretation of success, how do I know they're working? It's a very good question, because with the way that things are in the industry, and the popularity that I guess that a few habitat improvements have, the hinge cutting, everybody knows is a huge tool, and also one of those improvements that is a improvement that is done wrongly a lot, creates a lot of mess, devastation on properties. But also, when it's done correct, it's a very powerful tool, and where it's needed. Other things that came to my mind when that question was asked was, I get calls and go to properties that have been improved by landowners themselves, came up with an idea and a design and tried to implement it, and it wasn't working. Something just isn't right. Or they have hired someone in the past to come in and do it, and the pieces of the puzzle just aren't connecting. They just, a lot of guys a lot of property owners, husband and wife teams or hunting camps, a lot of these, the folks are very honest with me. They're like, I don't know, it's, is it me? Is it the property? How do I know? How do I know am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? And that, guys, is the power of having this analysis package done that I offer, because it answers those questions. It answers those questions very directly. And when I'm on these farms, being able to see this, walk it with them, a couple things that we do is when we leave the cabin, I can tell sometimes which stands are their favorite stands, or which stands are they get hunted the most, is because that's the first place we go. So I always have, that's one thing I have in my mind. Obviously I don't say that a lot of times out to the clients, but you can tell just things that being doing this full time that you pick up on. And so the answer that I gave this gentleman from Wisconsin was, I believe success has to be gauged or rated per project or per improvement. So, and what I mean by that is if you take the success of your whole farm and you say it's not working, that means obviously that all the improvements that you've done and all your hunting strategies and everything isn't working. And I don't see that a lot on a lot of properties. There's always something that's working. There's always, you're doing things right, or you're doing things wrong as far as your movements, or your habitat, the improvements just isn't correct. The habitat in general on some parcels, a lot of parcels that I go to, the habitat isn't so much the issue as it's the habitat set up in the wrong locations or in the wrong way. That's the issue. The issue is not in, you had a logger come in 4 or 5 years ago, you got some browse. Hopefully they cut it during the right time of the year, and you've got some regeneration. wrong spots. It's not that the browse count is wrong. It's the count, the stem count, or the browse that was enhanced is in the wrong location. So with that said, like I said, when he asked that question, very, very good question, and I appreciate the question, and I know he's listening, so appreciate the question. And it's that is kind of how I gauge it, is per project that you implement, whether that's a bedding area, whether that improvement was a new food plot. Did your food plot work as far as growing? Did your food plot work as far as being able to keep it unpressured and being able to hunt the property without bumping those deer off? Two different things. Perfect example on did it work. Is it working? Well, is it working growing wise? Did you get the tonnage requirements? Did you meet the tonnage requirements that you were looking to meet? Or was it a issue of not being able to hunt it? So some things there that come to mind. I really think that what it is don't look at. I always, I talk to some customers sometimes, and you can tell, folks that reach out to me. A lot of times it's overwhelming. They look at, and I see this on. It's not, only on larger parcels that they get. People get overwhelmed. It's on parcels that of no size limit. It's just the fact that they're not working. It's the fact that you're having trouble hunting these parcels, and that makes people frustrated. That gets people doing things that you wouldn't necessarily do before, and now you're taking information from all different sources around, and you're throwing everything at the wall trying to get it to stick, and nothing's working, and you get very overwhelmed. And that's why I'm here. So survey that with each project. Look at what you're doing, what you did it, or where you did it, how you did it, if it's working. And don't base the success of an improvement off were you able to kill a mature buck. That's the end goal. That's obviously the goal that I want you to succeed with. But whether that's, I have properties that I set up that, the folks that are hunting it are very, very happy with 2-year-old deer. It's the biggest deer they've ever killed. I'm not there to tell you which deer to kill. I'm there to tell you and aid you in building the property so you can harvest that deer, no matter what age it is. And hopefully you take that to the next level, because the property is designed correctly, that you can be at the top of the herd count, if you will, when your neighbors aren't doing that. At a certain point, when you want to step up to that level, you want to go to the next level age class, that opportunity is there on these parcels. That's how I set these up. I don't go into them setting them up for, you have to shoot, I don't ever leave a project saying this is a, if you call me and you don't shoot mature deer off this, obviously it didn't work. That's not the case. It's the opportunity to harvest deer successfully back-to-back years, and multiple deer during the year, and that's the strategy. So what that ties into is not gauging your success off from just a harvest. Make sure it goes back to the old saying that everybody, it's just not about the kill, and I think that ties into this question. And the answer is, if you gauge everything that you're doing off the success of that, the trophy on the wall, sometimes when that doesn't happen, especially when it doesn't happen year after year, you look at the property. That's why properties get sold. That's why good properties out there are getting turned over year after year after year, because they're not correct. They're not correct in design, and they're not correct in the platform, and that'll get you scrambling. So very good question. Those are the answers, not just a one answer deal. That's the answers that I would have on that question, that I did have on that question for the gentleman. And I think you need to pick it apart. If you have a 40, break it apart into which areas you did, whether it was corridors this year, transition areas this year, bedding area improvements, whether it was food plots, new food plots, updating food plots, screening the food plots in, access, exits, whatever that was that you upgraded, even stands. You know, did your tree stand work this year? Was it noisy last year? You switched to a good tree stand, quality tree stand, and it didn't squeak, and you didn't get busted. That's a success. You know, don't look at the huge picture. Look at the small picture. Before you know it, your picture's complete. So that is the question and answer video for the week. And if you guys have, you know, always looking for good quality questions. Like I said, no question is ever a bad question, and I answer a lot of them throughout the week, especially when I'm in between projects and in between farms. And